What's up everybody, it's the Irishman, back here again at Parq. It's Thursday afternoon, we're going to jump the 2-5 game. We're just waiting for our seat at the moment. I feel like we've been playing well lately, so we're going to try to keep the run, continue, bar the 3k loss at 5-10. We'll try class one back today. We're just waiting for the game to kick off. I don't ever play slots, but I feel like the DJs out here watching the channel would love a little spin, so I might throw 20 bucks or something in and have a little spin for the intro. Being a bit of a DJ, a little bit of the buffalo, waiting for our seat. Let's see if we can take this buffalo. Let's get down to it. Otherwise, this money will be gone ASAP. What the fuck? Okay. And this is why you don't play machines. It was like 20 bucks in 30 seconds. I love to see it. Right, back to the poker room. Fuck this shit.
We must pay homage to him.
How's it going everybody? Welcome back to the vlog. Just before we kick off with the first hand here, I want to let everyone know we'll announce the winner for the $300 for last week's vlog at the end of this video, and the response was so good I'm going to give away another $300. We're going to switch it up this time, and there's a bluff at the end of the vlog. You'll see the final hand. It could be a punt, could be a gangster bluff, I'm not even sure, but give your opinion in the comments below. What you thought of the bluff. Do you think it's a punt? Do you think it's a good bluff? Whatever you think, and the comment with the most likes, we're going to give away $300 to. So kicking off the first hand of the vlog here, playing 2-5 at Parq. We look down at best hand in poker, pocket aces. Always nice to start off the vlog with the ones. Under the gun 2 makes it $20, and I 3-bet in the hijack to $75. I started the hand with I think 1480, so I bought in for 1480 because I played 1-3 waiting for the table to open and won 480, and I just sat with the stack plus the other chips I had in my bag and got dealt a hand before I realised that I didn't buy in for 1,000. So once the hand is dealt, I can't take chips off table. So we're in for 1480, but it only feels like 1,000 with the wins at 1-3. He calls and we go heads up to a flop. Flop comes down King 8-8 with 2 clubs. So after he checks, I think we can go 2 ways about this one. I think against a recreational player, I'm just always going to bet for value, try go for 3 streets. I think generally we're going to do a lot of betting on this board, but villain here is a pretty good reg, so I think once in a while checking back a hand like aces can be pretty decent just to protect some of our checkbacks. We go ahead and check it back. Turn now comes the 9 of hearts. He checks again. We're going to start going for some value. We bet $100 into 157 and he calls. River now comes down to 4 of hearts. He checks again. We bet 175. Think maybe I might have went too big considering I don't think he would check a king twice. So I think this might have been a mistake. I think using sizing maybe like 120 could be better. Try getting to call with some random pocket pairs, 7s, 6s that he doesn't believe me with, but I think given our line, we probably more than likely have something. We'd expect a lot of our bluffs to stab the flop, so not sure if I like how I played this one. Like, I think the check back is fine at some frequency. We're not checking back aces here all the time, just a small amount of the time, considering he has more 8s than us. But when we bet 175, he pretty quickly lets it go, so we miss out on some value on the river. He maybe could even just have had ace high, even though we block it pretty hard, but we pick up a small pot to start the day, which is always nice. The button straddle to 10 is on. We look down at ace queen off in the small blind. We raise to $45. Middle position calls and the button calls. We're going 3 ways to a flop. Comes down jack 7-2 with 2 spades. So there's a flush draw on board, but by that it's a pretty dry board. There's a couple of straight draws, but not too many. So we're going to continue with a lot of our range here. Like we would when we have aces, kings, queens, pocket jacks. We're going to have a lot of strong hands. So given that we have 2 overcards, a backdoor flush draw, we're going to continue. We go 1/3 and bet 55. Both players call pretty quickly. So heading 3 ways to the turn, and it comes to king of spades. So we pick up the second nut flush draw, and we also pick up a gut shot. So I think we're going to continue to barrel on this card. I know it's a bit dicey considering it's into 2 players. We'd rather it be heads up. So given that we're into 2 players, we're going to bet half pot and bet 150. Just because we're betting into 2 ranges, I don't think we want to go too big here. I think if it's a heads up pot, we could start like betting closer pot to put max pressure on hands. But given that there's 2 players here, one of them could certainly have a flush. I think even though one of them could certainly have a flush, that doesn't mean that we have to just assume that they have one straight away. This is a good card overall for our range. So after we bet 150, both players just send them into the muck pretty quickly, and we pick up another nice little pot. The undergun straddle to 10 is on. We look down in the next seat over at ace-8 of diamonds. We raise it on up to $30. The player on the button calls, the big blind calls, and the straddler gets out of the way. Flop comes down king 3-3 with 2 spades and 1 diamond. So we just have ace-high here, but we do have the range advantage. We do have a backdoor no flush draw. So after the big blind checks, we're going to continue with a lot of our range here. Think of multi-way pots, and when we have a big range advantage, we don't need to go too big. The big blind's the only one I'd expect to have a 3, but it's still pretty unlikely. We go with a size of $25 into 102, so a quarter pot. The button calls and the big blind folds. So we're going heads up to a turn. Turn comes to 10 of diamonds, giving us enough flush draw. So I think now here, we're obviously going to barrel this card when we turn enough flush draw. If we look at the villain's range, they're going to obviously have some king X. They obviously won't have ace king, so that will 3-bet. But they can also have a lot of pocket pairs, 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s, that take one off to such a small size on the flop. So given that the villain can have a lot of these hands, a 10 now makes them kind of hands 3rd pair. I think we want to choose a sizing that puts a lot of pressure on these hands. We can also have a lot of the strongest hands that they can't. So we're going to go with an overbet sizing here, put maximum pressure on these hands, just put so much heat on them that they just have to fold. So we decide to bet 185 into 152. They call again, so needing some help here going to the river. And we don't get help. Well, we kind of do, but it's not the card that we wanted. We wanted a diamond, an ace after that, but we end up getting the 8 of hearts. So we do pick up some showdown. It gives us 3rd pair. So we decide on a check to see what the villain does. Villain bets $150 into 522. So interesting, a pretty small size here. It looks pretty milky, which generally would make me want to fold this hand because it just looks like it could just be a hand like King Jack going for value. But I've played with this player and they are pretty wild, pretty aggro. They play lots of pots, they bluff a lot, and ultimately what swayed me in my decision on the river here was in the 1-3 game while we were waiting for 2-5. Me and this villain played a pot where there was $80 in the pot on the river and they bet 20 and I called with ace high and it was good. So that shows me that a lot of players won't choose small sizings as bluffs, but they can be really effective in certain spots. Good players certainly will be able to find small sizings with bluffs because they just look really milky and will make it fold, something like what I have here, 3rd pair. But given the history that we had, and I know that this player can definitely have a lot of missed flush draws that they would bluff, and with that sizing, I know they're capable of bluffing the small size. I just wanted to put on my cape, go into hero mode and make the call. I call, they turn over their hand, ace-10 off, so a really, really nice value bet there. I didn't expect the villain to value bet 2nd pair. If we did, I think I might have been more inclined to fold, but that's a really, really nice value bet. I have to give them props there. They got the max out of me on the river with 2nd pair. I'm a big believer in betting tin in all spots, and that's what they done, so hats off to you. So the opponent in this hand is one of the better regs in the game. He's actually played on some Live at the Bike live streams and such, so definitely one of the top players in the player pool here. We look down at Jack 10 of clubs under the gun and open to $20. He calls in the low jack and the big blind calls. We're going 3 ways to a flop. There's 62 in the middle and it comes down Queen of clubs, 4 spades, 4 hearts. So flop pretty much nothing here, but we do have a couple of backdoor draws. We can turn clubs, we can turn some straight outs. So we're going to continue betting. We go with a bigger size this time, closer to 2/3 pot. We bet $40. The low jack calls and the big blind folds. So heads up to the turn here, and it comes the ace of diamonds. So we pick up a gut shot to the nuts. Any king gives us a straight, but generally this ace is going to be way better for us than it is for him. So given these reasons, given I know that he's a good player as well, we're going to bet here, and we're going to choose a big size just to put max pressure on his weakest queens, hands like pocket 8s, pocket 7s. So we bet $180 into 142. So I think I like an overbet sizing in this spot here. He thinks for a while, flicks in the call. River now comes the queen of spades, pairing the queen. So I think we were going to blast off on a lot of rivers. I think this is one of the rivers we just have to check and give up now. And the reason being that he has a lot of queen X when he just takes this line. So I think it'd be a suicidal bluff to fire off here. We're only kind of repping, if we go massive, we're repping like ace queen, pocket aces. Like we can't really rep too many hands. A lot of our queen X would also check the turn if we had a hand like king queen. So we can't credibly rep a queen. He has a bunch of them, so we're just going to wave the white flag. We check. He bets 275, so I think he's just going to have a lot of value here. We're just going to give up and toss our cards into the muck. In this hand, we're going to see a hand I think I played pretty poorly. Not really happy with how I played it, but we need to just play our best in every hand. Hands we think are mistakes, we can analyse them after, and this is certainly going to be one of these hands. I open ace queen off under the gun to 25. The cut-off calls and the big blind calls. So we're going 3 ways to a flop here. There's 77 in the middle, and it comes down jack 2 3 rainbow. So when it's checked to us, we're going to continue here. We're going to be betting a lot of our hands. So ace queen, we have 2 overcards. We continue with a size of 35. I think a size between 35 and 45 is good. The cutoff now min clicks it to 70. So the cutoff's a recreational player here. This is pretty unorthodox. You don't really see people min click that much. I wouldn't think it's the strongest hand when people min click. I'd imagine it's probably just some sort of jack. So given that we have 2 overcards, we're just going to call, see if we can hit on the turn. Turn now comes to 2 of spades. So remove some of the combos of sets that he has. There's now 1 combo deuces for quads. Obviously you can still have a set of 3s, but I would expect them to raise bigger, but maybe he can still have them in the range. We check again, and he bets 125. So here's where I think I made the mistake. I think, given that we've only 6 outs, we can fold. So I think folding could be the best option. Also, given that we block the strongest jacks and we're putting them on a weak jack X here, I think raising this as a bluff sometimes is good. We could also raise pocket aces, pocket kings. So I think out of our options, raising and folding are better than calling. Calling's probably the worst option, and I think you can guess already what option I chose. I chose to call. River now comes an offsuit queen, giving us top pair, which is pretty good for us now. And this is where I think I made another mistake. I end up leading out for 350 into 467. Just I was thinking, this guy's recreational. He's not going to fold if he has a jack, but it just looks so nutted for me to bet the flop, call the turn, and then just lead out on the queen. So I don't really like my river bet here. I don't like the size, and it's too big of a size. And if we are targeting a jack, we should just bet like $200, 175, something a bit smaller. So I think in game I was just got locked into, this guy's recreational. He's not going to fold. Let's just bet big. But he ends up folding and goes, I hated the queen. So I think definitely missed out on some value there. It'd be interesting to think what he would have done if we checked. Does he still go for some value? I'm not too sure, but I think we definitely misplayed this hand. Not really happy with how I played it, but something we can learn from when we analyze. So buckle up, boys. We're about to play the spiciest hand I think I've played out of any of the vlogs so far. The 10 straddle has now been on. We're playing the straddle game, so it's been on for a couple of orbits now. So the game is now 2-5-10. We start the hand with 15-60, and the opponent in this hand has us covered. So pre-flop, middle position raises to $35. The villain calls in the cutoff. I look down at pocket 10s in the big blind. Definitely going to want to 3-bet this hand up. We want to use a bigger size because we're going to be out of position if players call. So given that there's been a raise in the call, we decide on a size of 180. I think we could even go bigger, closer to 200, but I think 180 is fine. The original raiser gets out of the way and the cutoff calls. So when he just calls pre-flop and then calls our raise, he's not going to have the strongest hands because he would have 3-bet them versus middle position. So we should have a big range advantage here. Hoping for a clean flop to come down, and a pretty average one comes down. It comes down to Queen of Clubs, 4 spades, 7 of diamonds. So obviously we're not really loving the Queen, but bar that, we should have the best hand. We're going to continue on this board with nearly all of our range that 3-bets the big blind. We're going to have a way more polar range here when we 3-bet the big blind. So given that, we would be continuing here with our aces, kings, queens, ace, queen. So we're going to be betting nearly 100% of our range here. And when we're doing this, it's a 3-bet pot. We're usually going to choose a pretty small size. So we bet 125 into a pot of 410. So just under 1/3. I think it's pretty standard in these spots to go with this size with our whole range. He decides to call, and the turn comes to 4 clubs, so brings in a backdoor flush draw. Board now reads Queen 4, 7, 4. So the 4 makes it less likely that he has a hand like pocket 4. So there's 1 combo left. There's obviously 3 combos of pocket 7s, and then he can have a bunch of Queen X. He can also have some ace high floats, maybe with some backdoor clubs. And he can have hands like pocket 8s and pocket 9s that take one off on the flop to a small sizing. So here's where I think the hand gets a bit interesting. So I thought in game, I didn't want to check call and then the river go check check and we just lose the Queen X a lot. So it was kind of a spot where I decided to continue betting for 1/3. I bet 225, and my reason was maybe he still calls with hands like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, or some turn backdoor flush draws, so we can get value from these hands. But if we are behind to a queen, it also allows us to continue the story that we have a monster and bet the river. So it's kind of one of them like mergy bets. It's like accomplishing 2 things. I'm still not sure, but we bet 225 and he calls. So river comes to 6 of hearts. There's $1,110 in the middle. Now I think we're very likely not to have the best hand. I think if we check, we just lose this pot. So we're going to turn our 10s into a bluff here. We're going to get very spicy. We decide to jam all in for $1,030. Sends him deep into the tank. We're trying to hold it together. The heart's racing. The adrenaline's pumping. He tanks for what seems like absolute eternity. I think if he's tanking, he can have a lot of hands that are like king, queen, queen, jack. So I don't think he has ace, queen because he would have 3-bet that pre. That's another reason why I fired this bluff. And another reason I fired is because the player is a very good reg. So I think if this was against a fish, this would just be an absolute punt because they just never fold. But against this player, my line just looks so strong. I've 3-bet the big line pre, I bet the flop, bet the turn, and jam the river. I would take this line with pocket aces, pocket kings, queens, ace queen, all these strong hands. So he's going to be put in a really tough spot with his Queen X. If he did get to the river with a hand like 8s or 9s, I'm not going to get any more value from them anyways if it goes check check. So I think turning the 10s into a bluff here and getting him to fold a queen is pretty decent. It's a spot where we don't have too many bluffs. Maybe we have ace king is what he's thinking, but I don't think he'd ever expect us to be turning pocket 10s into a bluff. That's why I really like it. But after about what feels like 5 minutes, it might have only been a minute, he lets it go. So nothing like getting a massive bluff like that through. You get a little tingle in the old town halls. So very nice hand to finish the session. We pick up a pretty big pot. So I want your opinions on how I played that hand. If you think I played it shite, that was a punt, let me know in the comments. If you like the bluff, let me know as well. The comment with the most likes is going to win $300. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you now on the outro. Right, so that wraps up today's episode. We were into the 1-3 game while waiting for the 2-5 game. We were in that for 400 and out for 880. Then we were in the 2-5 game for 1480 and out for 2190, I think, for a total profit of 1110. So good to be back in the winning books after taking a shot at the 1-3. Good session today, some interesting hands. The 10 hands is definitely, the 10s hand is definitely an interesting one. Gonna have a look at it with some people. Could be a punt, Could be a good bluff. Don't really know. Got through in the end, which is always good. Let me know what you thought of the bluff in the comments below. The most liked comment is going to win $300. This is probably going to be the last session of the year, so I will post December's results here. I'll try post at the end of each month. I'll post the results just so you can see the wins, the losses, when inevitably we have some losing months. Not every month can be a sun run like this month. I think we only lost one session and it was a shot at 510, so that's always good. So as always, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't yet, please give it a subscribe. And I forgot to say, Happy New Year. Go out and have a few scoops. Enjoy the New Year's, and we'll see you in 2023.